welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I am your host, Mary Katharine Ham. I'm here with my co-host, Vic Mattis of the Washington Free Beacon. We are your morning show for any hour, and it is really the last hour in this election season. But we're not just going to do election today because that's not the kind of show that we are. 2024 can be tiring. And so what we have done is we've brought in a sugar rush for ourselves to celebrate this Halloween week. We will be sampling the best for you and the worst for you Halloween candies just to give us a real spike and crash before we begin this day. Right. So before we get to the news, which includes Kamala Harris's closing argument, Trump in a garbage truck, Biden messing things up for everybody, good times. Before we get to that and this jump ball election, Vic, how you doing?
Hello, Mary Katharine. It's good to be back on. Enjoyed your show with Kelly Marr. That was very nice. I'm doing fine. Happy Halloween.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad that we can start my morning with a diabetic shock. That's you know what?
Our listeners are going to be concerned about you. We actually, it's like an NBA team. We have a doctor on standby just in case.
Right, I'm being monitored right now. You can't see, but all my vitals there. They're monitoring my vitals.
He's fine, guys. It's a joke. Oh, my skeleton earrings are going to add.
Your skeleton earrings. Okay,
should maybe take them off if they're going to add to the audio issues.
People will be happy to know my.
Hear them?
Yes, I see that. Oh my, they're jangly.
Yes, they are.
My A1C right before this episode had ticked back in the right direction by a 1/10%. So
let's blow it out.
I'm almost in the non-pre-diabetic category. I'm so close. And here we are, which is why after this episode, I'm going to be having my whole nut bread that tastes like.
Well, you should have it before because, you got to give yourself some fiber to cushion all this sugar.
Sawdust, I was going to say. Yeah. Yes, it is. Okay. I'm doing fine. If people were wondering, I was actually in New York City. The Washington Free Beacon received the Manhattan Institute's City Journal Award, and it was a great honor. Eliana Johnson received it on our behalf, and she was introduced by Barry Weiss, our friend, at the Free Press. So it was a lovely evening, and I only have one gripe.
What's that?
Coming back, I decided on the Amtrak to take the quiet car because it's quiet after a night out. We partied. We had a great time. I need to recover. Why do people talk in the quiet car? Because they do. And they were like two young bros. I don't know if they work in Wall Street, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they were just, it starts off quiet and then it builds up. And the next thing you know, there are moments throughout this trip from New York to D.C. where they're listening to some work video without any AirPods, so you can hear it like out loud.
No.
What are you doing?
No.
Do you understand what it means? But I don't want to be the nag. I'm not because there are other people on the car that'll do that.
Take care of that for you.
Excuse me. This is the quiet car. But honestly, it is.
Yeah, it is the quiet car. And there's signage.
There's signage. Now, the only time, usually the violators of the quiet car are usually foreigners, like tourists or people who don't speak English. They'll be like, and they just do their thing.
So I get paranoid that I am in the quiet car and don't know it because sometimes I'll be in a car and it's very quiet.
Right.
And I get a phone call and I kind of want to take the phone call, but I can't. And like I said, I just said there's signage, but I still trick myself and look around and I'm like, but what if I am and I'm that jerk?
Oh, you're the one.
Right?
Yeah.
What if I am?
Well, you look around. Look around to still see if it's that car. Other than that, doing fine, Mary Katharine. How are you?
I'm good. Halloween is a big holiday for us.
Yes, not for me, but for you, yes.
There's a lot of kids. Yeah. There's a lot of costumes. There's a lot of pride in the costumes, as you guys know.
Yeah, I have none.
My husband and I don't like to brag, but we've won 2 Halloween costume contests already.
Oh my goodness.
And I think we're topped out. That was it for us. So the first one was a friend's party a week or 2 ago, and we won the most creative costume.
And this is voted on by all the attendees.
Mm-hmm. Mm. The next one last night was at the Reason magazine Halloween party.
More of a bigger to-do. Yes.
Yeah, and I was like, I got to go to this. I like Reason parties, and I haven't been in a couple years because I have all these kids, and So the Reason Magazine crew, Katharine Ward
Yes,
and
of course.
Peter Suderman and all our buddies are up there. And Steve and I were the Ghoul and Lucy from Fallout. Now, this is both a video game and a streaming show on Amazon. So
that is very niche.
Look it up. But here's the thing. It's not that niche because it was a streaming show this year and it was pretty popular. It had Walton Goggins played the Ghoul, who is this like radioactive cowboy character.
Okay.
So it wasn't that niche. And I told Steve before we left, if there was ever a demo for this video game turned streaming show, it is the Reason Magazine crowd.
They would get it.
And sure enough, we got there and almost every person there was like, yes,
wow.
I know what this is. This is fantastic. And then they'd put the two of us together and realize we were from the same thing. Now, here's the thing. We won anyway. But I want to say that there was another part to our costume that really would have taken it over the edge, if possible. And that is that in the video game and the streaming show, there is a dog character named Dogmeat who is a Belgian Malinois.
Oh, my.
And so our picture includes Scout with a severed hand in his mouth that we bought for him to carry around.
You managed to have him bite it? You're like, okay.
You know what? Not that well for the picture, if I'm honest about it, but we tried. But he's in the picture with us. Dogmeat was there as well.
Wow.
Anyway, the demo Reason did not disappoint. We were right where we needed to be, the sweet spot, and we won Best Couple Costume. And we have a little trophy to put on our mantle.
I'm giving you the slow clap here.
We were very proud.
Bravo.
I was very proud because I spent each time we dressed up, I spent 30 minutes doing Steve's stage makeup, which is like he has kind of like a very scarred up face. And he's missing a nose. Like I did a whole thing.
You're like Rick Baker, practical effects over here. That's really impressive.
So we were pleased with ourselves.
Very nice.
We were pleased with ourselves.
Happy to help.
Now for the kids. Yes. And I think I complain about this every year, but let me just say, the number of Halloween events is too many. It's too many for a person who is concerned about costumes because they're like, just send them to school in a costume. I can't send my children into school in some nonsense costume. I have to put work into this, right?
You don't want to just buy like the box costume with the...
No, I think my children are rebelling because they suggested that, and I was like, there will be no bag costumes in this house.
That was me. I was
Young
Captain
ladies.
Hook. Yeah.
That's going to be what they're going to do with their children after all this torture. But anyway, so the big girls have book character day. So you can imagine that maybe the book character is not what they want to be for real Halloween. So now they each have two costumes. One of them did me a solid and just was like, Mom, I'll be Luna Lovegood for both. So I'm a book character.
From Harry Potter.
So I can carry it over. So we did that. I sent the toddler in a faked up little cowgirl outfit to her preschool today because I couldn't do her real one because it has context. Her real costume needs her brother and the wagon I'm going to put them in. So, I can't just...
Too many things.
I am going to tell you what the toddler one is because I was very proud of myself.
Okay.
So I had another idea. I was going to make them Wolverine and Deadpool, which is like so inappropriate because they're 3 and 1.5.
Nevertheless.
But I was like, it's going to take a lot of work and construction, and they're not going to want to wear the masks.
Claws.
With toddlers, you have to be very careful because they don't want to have things on them.
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I can make their little toddler wagon into something that they would be in. Because even when I'm trying to do something simple, it gets so extra so fast. So I decided that they're going to be Laura Dern and Sam Neill from Jurassic Park.
Oh, good.
Because that's just khakis and button-up shirts, and it's pretty simple. Yeah. But then I made them a Jurassic Park Jeep. So they have
out of the wagon?
Yeah. They have a branded Jurassic Park Jeep made out of... I think it's made out of targets that we had in our garage, because of course we have
of course.
For range practice. There were big pieces of cardboard, so I painted them and cut out some windows and put the logo on there. So they have a Jurassic Park wagon, and then Steve comes in with this. Can you believe it? I was like, I think I'm just not going to dress up tonight because we've already won.
Right.
I feel good.
Yeah,
And the girls were like, oh, you got to dress up as something, Mom. And Steve's like, I got one of those raptor costumes if you want to wear that. I'm sorry for the voice, Steve. That's not how he sounds. I was just doing dude voice. Apparently, Steve has one of those silly dinosaur costumes that like waggles
Like the
around
full
while you
thing.
walk
Yeah.
through the neighborhood. So I'm going to put that on and pull the
Be
babies.
part of the Jurassic Park
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
So this is one of
It's
the babies.
good fun.
For Dr. Grant, do you have like a little neckerchief thing going on there? Is that what it is? Yeah,
Yes,
that's
we
cute.
got that.
Little hat,
We
denim
got
shirt.
the pink
kind of.
pink button up for Laura Dern.
Yes, of course.
I got little boots for both of them to wear,
Yes.
like they're real archaeologists. Okay.
I don't know what to say. It's
I don't
just,
know why it brings me such joy. It brings me such joy to do this silliness.
Yeah, my daughter asked me, "Do I even care?" I said, "No, I don't."
Some people really don't, and I think
it's not
that's
my jam.
I think that's freeing to some degree, right?
Yeah, you put a lot of mental energy into this.
I do. I wish that Halloween was not right next to Election Day. That would make things easier for me.
Every 4 years.
Yeah. So, anyway,
Well,
speaking of
Day, yes.
I'm going to be like the least helpful pundit right now and just say like, this thing really looks like a jump ball, doesn't it, folks?
To call. Well, I think they're just making it. They're intentional. Every time you think one candidate is going to pull away, they're like, no, let's keep it closer by doing something insane. Before we do that, should we explain the candy? And
I
then
also want to say that I feel like I want Fox to Chiron me and put that little look. That's like the thing they put on the screen below you. Just unhelpful pundit, Mary Katharine Ham. I think the same thing you guys think.
Well, you know what you should say? You should say, the only poll that matters.
Election
the one
day.
on election day.
I think it's really going to come down to turnout.
Yeah, it's going to come down to turnout, and time will tell.
Okay, so we're going to discuss the news, but we're also going to dose ourselves with this
that's right.
array of Halloween.
That's right. So as we know, I mean, obviously you're listening to this the day after. It's a happy All Saints Day. I hope you enjoyed your candy collection.
Hey, everybody's going to be dipping into this candy collection today.
That's right, and they're going to wonder, what should I get? What should I have from the kids' bags? That are healthy and not, right? Or for your children. Maybe you're concerned about having too much sugar for your children.
Getting Hammered investigates. Vic has figured it out.
Investigates present tense. Well, we'll get into parsing language later on in the show. But, okay, so our friends at Journal Research sent a study. The Halloween candy with the scariest amounts of sugar.
Whoa.
So they listed, it's a very long list. So what we have done is a combination of finding, on the one hand, the healthiest, and then the worst in terms of sugar, and also just scrambling around to find candies that were available, because a lot of these on the list are not readily available anymore. And then there's one on the list. There's one that's not on the list, but we threw it up here, and a couple bonus surprises just because they're like the candies of the moment. And when we get to it, I'll explain, because they're like the hottest candies in the country right now. So we'll get to that.
Do you remember Mary Jane's?
You mean like the...
No, not that kind. Not the...
Oh, no, not that kind. Oh, yeah, I do. They're peanut buttery.
They're allegedly... I just looked it up because I remember it's like the long lost taste in my mind, and you'd always get a Mary Jane candy, and you'd be like, you don't want that in your Halloween bag.
You know what? Is it like Bit O' Honey?
It's molasses flavored taffy candy.
Sure.
A real crowd pleaser.
Is that the one that's like sort of a yellow and red wrapper?
Oh, yeah. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like something Laura Ingalls would have thought was a delicacy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the frontier. Y'all did not have as good candy as we have.
Molasses flavored taffy.
Yeah.
And Mary Jane's also a reference to like a shoe. The thing of the shoe, right?
That's correct.
So that's it. Okay,
yeah, those are. I like those better.
Multiple meaning.
For you? What was the candy that you did not want to see in your bag?
Necco wafers.
Yeah, that's a bad
That's
one.
from also a different time.
Yeah.
Do
they even carry those anymore?
Yeah, I saw them in the store, and I did not want to get those. Also, Good and Plenty, because they came in weird. There were actual licorice flavored, and they look like pellets for rat poison.
Yeah, no, they don't look good. Mike and Ike's are a similar vibe, but different flavor, right?
If it's not, I'll have it if it's not the licorice flavor.
Okay, so should we try the most healthy on our list?
So the most healthiest on the list, and thank you to Jennifer for helping get a number of these candies today. The first one is called, it's Red Vines. Well, I got news for you. If you read carefully the list, Jennifer, it's Red Vines Black Licorice.
Oh my gosh! Well, we're definitely not trying.
Yeah, no. I mean, at which point I might as well just have wheat toast. I don't know.
I'd be interested if we have some of these sociopaths in our audience, because some people like black licorice.
They do. Oh no, I know people like that as well. Thank you, Mary Kath. I'm just gonna take one out here. So these are basically, this is like a Twix. I'm not Twix, sorry. How much have I had to drink? Twizzlers.
We're not even drinking.
I know, and this is like the equivalent. Twizzlers? These are basically Twizzlers.
Except I don't think they're Twizzlers already.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to treat this like we're doing a tasting
Ew.
for like our drinks episode.
No, thank you.
I can smell it. First of all, the aroma is quite pleasant. Okay.
Do y'all eat these?
All right.
It's like, it looks like a Twizzler, so you're like, that's gonna be good.
You know what this tastes like? Ah. Okay. The aftertaste. You know how sometimes you're drinking like something like booze and there's like a burn at the end? This is an aftertaste of just general unpleasantness, and it probably is the reason why it only has 33 grams per 100 of sugar.
Record, I have finished every janky form of alcohol we have ever had on this show, but I will not finish this red wine.
I imagine for people, and this is unfortunate because there's a population of people who like don't have like a sense of taste. This is what licorice tastes to them like. Nothing. Oh my god.
Okay, I'm not a fan of that. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going from the most healthy, which actually I think would be worse than that because the black licorice version of this would be worse.
Yes, it would. The second healthiest, by the way, on that, which we also don't have here because it's not really a Halloween candy.
Yeah.
Is Lindt milk chocolate.
Oh, I mean,
that's fancy.
Sure-ish.
And I don't.
It's like saying the most healthy candy is like 90% cacao.
Yeah.
Bars from your
like
upscale
grocery
really store. Like, sure.
Or
they don't have any
bitter.
sugar.
All right. And we're now going to switch over.
Okay.
To the 10 worst. And now we don't have all of the 10 again, so they're hard to find. So we're going to jump right to number 9. So the 9th worst on the list is Fun Dip. Okay. And that has 83 grams of sugar per 100 grams.
Here, we have one each.
Yes, we do.
They're going to crinkle, but we'll try to keep it to a minimum. I don't even remember how
I've never had Fun Dip in my life. I don't know what's happening here. What is this?
Fun Dip feels like a New Jersey type thing. Like that you guys would walk on the boardwalk and
this looks like drugs, is what it looks like.
It is reminiscent of drugs.
Okay, here we go. I'm not even taking out the other half.
Not that I would know.
Okay, here we go. What? Okay. Like that?
I mean, you dip it. See?
Oh, there's stuff in here.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't even know. I just like, what is happening?
Oh, to be a child again. Yeah. As Vic is right now.
I'm about to spread this stuff, glitter all over the chair. Oh, this is...
That's very sour.
Yeah? Is that what... Oh, I see what's going on here.
Yes.
Okay. Well, my Fun Dip broke, which is why I can't get to the actual... Oh, wait a minute. This is amazing. This is one of the greatest or worst shows of all time, which is half the packet is the stick, and the other half...
Yeah. That's correct, Vic.
How do they know how to do this? I've never had...
Getting Hammered investigates normal things we've seen all of our lives.
Oh, I see. Look at this.
You know, this reminds me of a Biden clip I saw the other day.
I feel like George H.W. Bush when he discovered the scanners in the cash.
Honestly,
like, all right, how does this work with the barcode?
Isn't that a bit of a smear, by the way? Isn't that one of those media things that got out of control and wasn't really
probably wasn't. Yeah, that's right.
Tough on him as it should have been. Okay, or
right,
was tough on him.
I'm going to do one more, and then we got to talk politics, and we'll move on.
Okay, because your childlike wonder was reminding me of the declining health of the president.
Listen, you know what? You might just want to have the dip in itself. Like, who are we kidding here?
Cherry Yum Diddly Dip is what we chose.
I know our listeners.
Good,
I'm just going to head you off at the pass here, listeners. I know how much you love when I talk with my mouth full. So,
you know what I have at home that I should have brought with me for this day? I have candy cigarettes.
Oh.
Because I buy them every time I see them somewhere. I'm like, they're not going to live forever. Okay?
No, one day, because it sets a bad example. But until that day comes.
And I like to sit at my desk on a deadline with a candy cigarette.
Like many of our older colleagues back in the day, except for they were
with the actual cigarettes. Okay,
cigarettes.
What are we on to next?
Oh yeah, okay,
we do one more, and then
we'll do
one more.
Smarties.
The news. Okay.
Smarties. Now Smarties is not bad.
All right, I'm just gonna give you
just give me a couple.
Woo. My hands are on them.
Thank you.
I think we'll survive.
All right, these are Smarties. They're like chewable aspirin, but with flavor.
I love Smarties.
I saw a kid once, eat Smarties where he holds it on each end, and just undoes it into his mouth all at the same time.
I'm going to practice that this year. I love Smarties. That's like the perfect.
It's not bad.
Sweet tarty type.
You
of
like the balance?
I like
do a little bit more sour. You know how I
like sour in general, and I feel like Smarties hit the right note.
You're going to get a lot of these Smarties. I'm sure a lot of our listeners, they've gotten them from last night. So enjoy those.
You know who's not smart?
Yeah.
Can we talk about the closing argument that Kamala Harris tried to make and then Biden blew up?
Yeah.
And by the way, you can take my not smart comment to mean any, really 3 of 4 candidates in this race.
Right. There's only one who has yet to make, his gaffes came early and was before he was actually in the running. And it was, his childless cat lady comment. We're talking about J.D. Vance. But from the moment he started running, he's been the only one who hasn't had a massive gaffe, I would say.
Well, and he's just conversant and speaks. So, okay. I want to play a little bit of Kamala Harris's closing argument at the Ellipse, which is meant to invoke January 6th and where Trump spoke on that day to his supporters. There's also the White House directly behind her in the shot.
Yeah, picture her there.
Matthew Continetti reminded me that in 2020, when you were not allowed to leave your home, as you'll remember, Trump gave a speech outside the White House as part of the convention, I believe. And people got very angry that he was using it for politicking. But I guess it's okay now because it's different with a capital D.
That was during the Republican convention. They had fireworks.
Okay, here.
And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully, prosecute the cartels, and give Border Patrol the support they so desperately need. At the same time, we must acknowledge we are a nation of immigrants. And I will work with Congress to pass immigration reform, including an earned path to citizenship for hardworking immigrants like farm workers and our dreamers.
Cool. Where have you been for several years? She also said, and this is an important part of her message, that she does not see people who disagree with her as enemies. He wants to throw them in jail. I want to give them a seat at the table. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that most people in the Democratic Party believe that Trump supporters are people who should not have a seat at the table.
Yeah, that's right. And I believe Steve Bannon.
Is that obvious?
And Steve Bannon was just released from jail. So
there's that.
Yeah.
The day that she it was the day after she was making this speech. At any rate, she didn't need Bannon or anyone else to undercut her message because the president did so. Here he is, after maybe popping a few Smarties. Or Mary Jane. He probably eats the Mary Janes.
And Necca wafers.
So he is referencing the offensive joke from Madison Square Garden told by Tony Hinchcliffe, a roast comic. Not a wise move to book a roast comic for a politics rally right before an election because you're going to tick people off. He tells a joke in which Puerto Rico, the island, is the punchline.
Yeah.
He calls it there's a floating piece of garbage in the ocean. That ticked off a bunch of Puerto Ricans. We don't know to what degree or what difference it makes. Yeah. But I will say, even though I think that Trump curious or Trump supporters are in the group of people who say making offensive jokes is fine, there have been some endorsement moves in the wake of that joke by Puerto Rican influencers and entertainment folks. Even though that makes a difference.
Even though it's not Trump himself who said it. And obviously they didn't vet what the comedian was going to say, and here we are.
So, in response to that, Biden says this on a Zoom call for a Voto Latino, so a get out the vote for Latino voters, while she's giving her speech on the Ellipse, a couple hundred yards away.
Yeah, they're clearly not coordinating.
He says this.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his support.
Wow. So
I'm going to open up some bottle caps.
Okay, bottle caps are next, by the way, before we get to that. And I'll tell you why. Yeah, bottle caps is now we're entering into the 87 out of 100 grams is basically just sugar. Okay.
I'm going to feel terrible today.
First, I want to go back to the original sin, if you will,
okay,
of the comedian
okay,
at Madison Square Garden. and how
for
mad
the garbage news cycle. We're on the we did a whale news cycle, and now we're doing a garbage news cycle.
That's right. Yeah. Both campaigns, they know, right? It's going into the last week. They're going to make their big closing argument. This is it. Right. This is how they're going to end. There's only going to be so much more campaigning between now and Tuesday. And Trump goes first. They're doing Madison Square Garden. The whole idea is to sort of recreate like a Republican convention bounce.
Right.
And despite the attempts by those on the left to say, oh, this is going to be a rehash of, the America First Charles Lindbergh, a rally from 1937, 38, whenever it was. It's going to be like we're going to show all these, positivity, and Trump's going to close it out. The problem is it was like the Republican convention without any of the discipline or the organization.
Correct.
And it quickly devolved into a sort of a wedding where you have these unlimited wedding toasts that people start giving.
Probably won't surprise you. I had the same thought, which is that when you're doing a wedding toast, which is essentially what it is to be a speaker or especially a comic at a political event, you have to tread pretty lightly, which is, it's not a great gig for a comic. You want to be edgier than that. But if you're in that space, you're given a toast that's not offending grandma. That's what you're charged with doing, and that's not what happened.
The room, or in this case, the country. And it reminded me of like our wedding had, I think, 2 toasts: best man, maid of honor. That's great. The night before, the rehearsal dinner was unlimited, and it was nuts. But that's fine because it's the rehearsal dinner, But every time we had one dear friend go up, the late great Dr. Joe Bardenheier, he would say something in honor, for me and Kate, and then by like the 4th toast, how does that, and yay, and that's like the end. Like, when is this going to end on?
You got to be careful with that. I saw one horrendously offensive sexual toast at a wedding one time. I won't say whose wedding, but it was like, wow.
Well, you can't share you can't share it either.
I couldn't be in the room. I had to leave the room.
Okay.
I was like, ooh.
Yeah. And the other thing is,
all right, I'm gonna hand this to you for some bottle caps.
Okay, we're having bottle caps.
I've never had bottle caps before.
I don't think either, because they basically look like knockoffs of sweet tarts.
They do, and one of them is root beer flavored.
Oh, I'll take that one, but I don't see it. Oh, I'm not reaching back in there. Okay. You can have that back, Mary Katharine. And it's also not like comedians have not told, Puerto Rican jokes before, because I was thinking about Chris Rock. Chris Rock in performance, making a joke, which I will not tell, but, let me tell you something. The audience thought it was funny. And it tells me it's just about, again, reading the room.
I am having the same reaction to a root beer bottle cap as Puerto Rican voters are having
to the joke.
To that joke.
Okay. Oh. You know what? I like this one. I'm a fan of bottle caps.
Oh, dear.
You know why? Because I got great. And I wouldn't mind the root beer one either.
All right, I'll try the grape.
Okay, so that was my thought on Trump. And to get to the Biden thing really quickly, it's people are like, oh, he's sabotaging it on purpose. I think there's one of 2 possibilities for me, and I don't know what you think. One, he is still bitter that he got pushed out, so he's going to do this. It takes a little bit of work to make this sort of deliberate thing happen, to like, oh, we're going to speak at the same time, and I'm going to say it. My suspicion, however, is that it's the staff that wants to do this by just letting him loose.
Yeah.
And no guardrails, completely unfiltered old man, and whatever he says he's going to say, let the chips fly. That's my thought. I don't think they knew he was going to say that. He just sort of just rambled, and they're like, okay, well, it is what it is.
Well, and it does speak, as you said.
It's bad timing for Harris.
It speaks, as you said, to a lack of coordination between the White House and her campaign.
Yeah. Or
that there's something deeper going on, and he's ticked off.
Right.
Because he just shouldn't be doing anything while she's speaking. He should be like, if not in the audience, at least in the audience for TV at his house, just watching her, or in bed, whatever.
Right.
It also speaks to the issue of, like, this guy's still the president. He's the current president of the United States.
He's still the president, and that video is so sad to see him. It's, the quality of the video is poor, and he's doing a video, for whoever.
Yeah, she's got the trappings of the White House, and he's on a Zoom call with,
and
like,
he's
bad
in the
lighting.
He's in the well, I don't know if he was in the White House at the time,
I think he was.
That's his, that's where he is, and yet here we are. The other thing I wanted to say was the media reaction to it is really,
Wowza.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, I like, look, there's several options here.
Mhm.
You could be chill about the comedian's joke and chill about the president's comment. Or you could be chill about the comedian's joke, more upset about the president's comments because he's the president.
Mhm.
Or you could be very mad about the comedian's joke and not at all mad about the president's comments. And that's where most of the journalists ended up. And I don't think that's very defensible. If you want to be chill about both, I'm open to that.
Right.
If you want to tell me neither one is going to move a lot of votes, I'm open to that. But this idea that a roast comic's joke is more important
Right.
than the president of the United States comments, which, by the way, you're lying about,
Right.
is not good. That doesn't make any sense to me. Option C makes no sense.
And this is not to say that Trump doesn't say insane and terrible things. We know that, but he never goes back and say, "Well, what I said about John McCain, I didn't really." No, he owns it. So you don't want to vote for him? Don't. I get it.
He does really mean that.
Yeah, no, I really, you know what I mean. When he says, if Kamala's dumb, it doesn't mean, oh, I mean in the more dumb and deaf way where she can't really speak. No. He meant that she's not bright. So the parsing of it is amazing, and it's not by everybody in the media. So I'll give props to Chris Cillizza and also John McWhorter, who is more of an intellectual. That he's not a pundit, but he just came out on Twitter and he's great, and he said Biden meant, and he's not on the right, but he said Biden meant Trump's supporters. No apostrophe analysis makes sense. In parentheses, the comedian is his supporter? ?
Right.
No, it doesn't make
that's
sense.
not even clear.
And McWhorter is a linguist. He's a language expert.
Yeah. So what the White House claimed and put in a transcript was that there was an exculpatory apostrophe in here, which is to say that Biden meant the only garbage he sees floating around is his supporters, apostrophe S, as in the single possessive, I think.
The comedian.
In that the comedian's garbage was this joke. Now, I think we can Occam's razor this and suggest that
I was going to say Occam's razor.
the thing that they all think he just said, and it's not really a secret that many people on the left think this. It's like, that's the thing that's amazing to me. They're all like, who would think that we would say such a thing? It's like, well, I'm pretty sure that's what you think about Trump supporters. I was on CNN for many years, and my function was basically not to think that about Trump supporters. And that's what made me different than many commentators on the channel.
Yeah.
So it's crazy that they think that. But I just think he's pretty emphatic about it.
Yeah.
And I think he knows he messed up right after he said it, and he starts into the
pauses.
second sentence. But he ends the sentence. The only garbage I see floating around is his supporters, period. Then his denigration of
and then he goes right into it. That's absolutely right. So I mean, I think there's nothing worse than telling Americans or supporters or whoever what you heard is wrong. What he obviously they mean is supporter apostrophe S. It is like, and I get it. You can make the argument, but you look like as our friend Richard Starr would say about certain grammar Nazis, look like a Nimrod. Yeah. What does that mean? But anyway, that's from somebody we know. But it's just very obvious what he meant. It would be like saying, when he said he was comparing, Biden might be comparing Trump with Hitler. Oh no, he didn't. He wasn't. He was comparing with, as in compare with means to contrast, whereas compare to means to liken to. Yes, that's a rule that I apply in writing and language, but no one's going to notice that really. I
think when these things happen, it also is, and this happens to Trump too. Yeah, where like maybe there are things you could be more charitable to Trump about, but he has built a reputation for saying these type of things. Now we try to be careful about that. Things like the bloodbath comment is totally out of context.
Right.
It's not really even something that you can misunderstand, but they're taking it out of context. Whatever. He's built a reputation for that. So when people believe that, that's partly where that comes from. Biden, in this case, I think is pretty clear. But even if you're going to give him grace, he has built a reputation, speaking at Philadelphia in front of his red building, about how everyone who votes for Trump is a threat to democracy. So like, it's not very far-fetched to imagine this is what he meant.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Well, this gives Trump a new news cycle in which to obtain a Trump-branded garbage truck to ride around in, and then go to his rally in a reflective vest, as if he were working on the garbage.
Man of the people. Are you going to play a clip?
Let's play a little
Okay, let's
clip
play
of him
first. Yeah.
speaking from the garbage truck.
Is answering some questions from reporters.
Joe Biden to make that statement, it's really a disgrace.
You said the other day that the military could be used, that the military or the National Guard could be used on election day if necessary. Can you explain what you meant by that in detail?
I don't think they'll have to be used. I think we're going to have a big victory. And I think 250 million people in this country are going to be very happy because we're going to bring the country back. We're a nation in decline, very, very serious decline. And we're going to bring our country back.
Did you know that Elon Musk was in close contact with President Bush? Did you know about this? Did you know about Elon Musk at all and close communication?
No, I don't know. Elon is a great guy. He's one of our geniuses, and we have to protect our geniuses. We have to take care of our geniuses. There aren't too many of them. Yes, please.
Puerto Rico an apology for what the comedian said?
No, I love Puerto Rico, and Puerto Rico loves me. I don't know anything about a comedian. I love Puerto Rico. Nobody's done more for Puerto Rico than me. I took care of them when they had the big hurricanes, and nobody gets along better with Puerto Rico and the Puerto Rican people than me. They love me and I love them. Go ahead.
So he's chatting from the cab
Yeah.
of the garbage truck with his name on it. He's wearing a orange vest. He then later tells the story of how this came to be, which it's about a 5-minute story, so I'm not going to play it all for you, but I will play a bit of the end where he explains why he's in a vest on the stage.
But if you did, it actually makes you look thinner. I said, and they got me. I said, I want to wear it on stage. When they said I look thinner, I said, in that case, I'll wear it on stage. I may never wear a blue jacket again. I may go in this. They said that was the word, that was the key. Sir, you look thinner. So anyway, we had a little fun about a very serious subject. We had a little fun about a time where our country is not having a lot of fun because we're not doing well as a country, but we're going to be doing well very shortly. I promise you that.
There's a whole spiel.
As he told Joe Rogan, or Joe Rogan asked him about having the necessity of having comedic chops and the sense of timing. He's pretty good at this stuff.
Well, and I think just tactically, what is happening here, I don't know if he means to do it. I kind of think he's a savant when it comes to politics and his persona.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's planning any of this, but it feels to me that what he is hearkening back to with the McDonald's thing, with this, is the Trump, not of the first term, which, people remember his record fondly when it comes to economics, but not him fondly. He feels like Trump that was the cameo in Home Alone 2.
Yeah.
Like the guy that everybody was like, oh, here's this guy again. Right. He's good for a laugh. He shows up every now and then. Rich guy with all the businesses, right? That's what he feels like to me when he's doing this shtick and when he's doing the McDonald's shtick. And the problem for Democrats is that I think after the way they've talked about him for years, and some of it is earned, it's hard to humanize him. And yet he's succeeding in making that happen. Talking to Theo Von, talking to Joe Rogan, having these moments.
For 3 hours without using the bathroom. And I use the bathroom at least 3 times on the Amtrak.
What the problem for Democrats is that their argument is that he's very, 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 very scary.
Yeah.
And then you watch him tell jokes about how he doesn't want to look fat in his reflective vest. And you're like, he doesn't seem scary in that moment.
Watching that, I had this thought, and I had to write down because I won't be able to get it all, just explaining it without my notes here. So this is what I have. Only Trump would somehow exploit a garbage comment against Puerto Rico that got turned into a garbage comment against Trump supporters by Biden into a viral photo op by Trump in a garbage truck. That's what I want to say.
Here we are.
And it has got to be driving like Tim Walz crazy because you would think that in the hands of other politicians, this could be a Dukakis moment. Dukakis in the tank looking so ridiculous with the helmet on. And
Well, and I think if you don't like Trump, it is that, but you're not recognizing that he has a capacity for this that other politicians don't have.
Mary Catherine, I think we need to.
Yeah, we need to move on to the next one.
Okay, now is this something you're excited about?
These are some of my faves.
Okay,
I'm now finding out that I thought I was sort of shielding myself from some of the sugar consumption with my preference for sour candy, but I'm not. They're apparently the most sugary.
Yes, they are. The sour disguises the sweet. So this is sweet tarts, which has 88 out of 100 grams sugar. I like the play on the words, sweet hearts. You see, and yet it is tart. So that is just.
I need a red one.
Brilliant. You're choosing the color.
I know I had to.
I'm not going to choose the color.
I'm only going to have a few.
I'm going completely blind, and here we got.
Oh, look, they have messages
green and purple. Yeah.
Since when do they have messages on them?
Messages on them.
Have they always had messages?
I think
I have
so.
just not known that.
Is it like messages like Valentine's? Those...
Mine say sassy, calm, bold.
Oh, mine says chill rock pop classic.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm kind of like
I'm gonna
I don't know.
away from the mic.
I feel.
We're still really loud.
If I can hear it, maybe the listeners just heard that.
Oh, it's so good.
Well, that is tart.
Love a sweet tart.
Now, let me say, I do too. I had one thought for you, Mary Catherine, about the parsing. I don't know. I can do this with the sweet tart in my mouth because it's going to annoy your listeners.
Your mouth's like turning inside out.
I'm sorry. No. There's a scene in The Simpsons where Bart goes to Lionel Hutz, the attorney at law, and he presents, and Lionel Hutz says, it'll be like $1,000 contingency fee. And Bart says, but your business card says works on contingency, no money down. And he goes, oh, sorry. He's like, there's a typo. And he adds, works on contingency, ? No, comma, money down. And so, I mean, it's the same thing with support or apostrophe. Yes, it's stupid. So
it's silliness. Yeah. Can I play you actually real quickly how CBS News's straight news nightly broadcast
with my classmate
covered this?
Yeah.
Nora O'Donnell.
Right. Yeah.
I guess she's just decided she's broadcasting from DNC headquarters, and I don't say that even as a joke. Like this is beyond. And we played a clip from her last week where she was off the rails. Right. Okay, here's this one. Opening the newscast for the very trustworthy CBS News.
We are now 6 days out from Election Day. Nearly 60 million votes have already been cast in early in-person voting and through the mail. And the latest polls suggest the race could not be tighter. Both campaigns are locking their focus on the battleground states. Vice President Kamala Harris rallied in North Carolina and Pennsylvania today and is in Wisconsin tonight. Former President Donald Trump was in North Carolina earlier and tonight is also in Wisconsin. He landed in Green Bay just a short time ago and then pulled this campaign stunt, speaking to reporters from a garbage truck, proof that he and his supporters are giving no grace to a gaffe by President Biden, where he, in his explanation, inadvertently called Trump supporters garbage. This, of course, was in response to that racist joke about floating garbage told at a Trump rally just last weekend. Vice President Harris is distancing herself from the negativity and trying to drive home her unifying message that if elected, she will represent all Americans.
Oh, sorry.
That's
first of all, she's on her way out. I guess she doesn't care. The second thing is, Mary Catherine, there's so much loaded into the language. I'm just going to pick one and then back to you, which is the racist joke told at a Trump rally, the passive voice. Who told it? Well, let's assume it was the president. But no, of course not. But they couldn't say a comedian. Well, so
I like the demand from a straight news reporter that we're to give grace to someone who inadvertently called us garbage.
Yeah.
like, sorry, Trump supporters. The president of the United States did call you garbage on a live mic, on video. But he says it was inadvertent, and you need to give him grace. And giving him grace looks like, I don't know, getting real mad that Donald Trump's in a garbage truck. Like, why? I'm not mad that Donald Trump is in a garbage truck. It doesn't make me upset. It's just like the McDonald's thing. You can't make me upset about this thing. You can point out other bad things he's said. Some people have said, he said at one point on the trail that other countries are using the U.S. as a garbage can when they send folks to the country. Now, I would say I don't think that's him calling America a garbage can. It is him talking about the many now verified criminals that have come across the border, right?
Yeah.
But you can make that argument. This is not that.
It's, yeah, it's pretty bad, and I'm just not sure where they go from here. What are they going to do next week? I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. It's a big if.
Well, it is a huge if because I don't know what's happening here. I think the Nevada early vote looks interestingly good for Republicans, and the Nevada early vote has been happening early for many, many years. John Ralston is an absolute expert in it who can tell you down to very small amounts what it will look like on Election Day based on pre-Election Day voting. He's saying it looks surprisingly good for Republicans. Now, that doesn't mean that Democrats can't catch up either on day of or before, but it would represent a change in behavior for Democratic voters who generally aren't the majority of Election Day voters. So Nevada's interesting because that should be in her leaning blue column for sure. Pennsylvania, they're like, we ain't even going to know for 3 days. It's super tight there.
The lawyers are already there for both parties.
I did see that the Trump campaign won a battle in Pennsylvania to extend voting in Bucks County for a couple of days, where some lines had been cut off early due to computer malfunctions earlier this week. In Nevada, Mark Elias won a victory to say that unpostmarked ballots could get in to the count like several days past Election Day, which is unpostmarked that sounds iffy to me.
A little questionable.
Yeah.
Glenn Youngkin in Virginia got a victory from the Supreme Court in a 6-3 ruling that says that
ruling.
You could continue to purge the voter rolls of those non-citizens to prevent them from, because they were going to count those non-citizen votes because they said it was too close to the election. The argument was, and it's kind of very political, that he's doing it, but now they're going to continue to allow doing this thing, which is it's a Virginia law. So.
But by the way that people are talking about this is crazy. Here's Senator Sheldon Whitehouse on a story about the Republican. It says, this is a Vox story saying the Republican Supreme Court just blessed an illegal voter purge. All right. Sheldon Whitehouse. To be more completely accurate, the Republican Supreme Court just blessed a Republican illegal voter purge. I mean, he's just saying the same thing. But at any rate, again, just on the facts, this is a law that passed the Virginia legislature in 2006. It was signed by then Democratic Governor Tim Kaine, who is Sheldon Whitehouse's colleague in the Senate. I would love for him to get a question about this. It has been enforced since 2006 in every election by Democrats and Republicans. The way it works is that if you're at the DMV and you check a box indicating that you are not a citizen, your voter registration, if it exists, will be screened, and your local election board will send you notification that hey, I don't know if you didn't mean to check this box and there's a misunderstanding, but we have this flag on your record. It doesn't affect a ton of people. If you get caught up in it by accident, there are 3 backstops, including provisional ballots on the day of the election that you can do. It's never been a problem. The DOJ in 2006 put in writing that it did not violate federal law to do this because it is not a giant voter purge. It's not systematic. It's just these little ones that are self-indicated by people. And the DOJ is just going to the mat to make sure that people who have designated themselves non-citizens should vote.
Well, again, if Trump wins, threat to democracy.
Right.
But everything right now is fine. The other thing I was going to say is sources tell me that Republicans are worried about Michigan. So I don't know if they were expecting to win in the first place.
Right.
But they say that at this point they're really hoping for just a very large turnout on Election Day. And if they're worried about Michigan, they're sort of obviously worried about Wisconsin, where it's neck and neck. And neck and neck, let's see, the Fox poll had just come out today, by the way, in Pennsylvania, showing Trump by 1.
Right.
And so there were like 6 polls, and half of them showed Trump by 1, and the other half showed tied, which means...
I should also say North Carolina early voting looks promising for Republicans, and having heard from folks and talked to folks through other folks on background, that North Carolina Republicans who are running their models feel very good about where they are in North Carolina. One thing I do hate about COVID, in addition to so much else, is that it ruined our ability to compare stats because 2020 was so weird.
Right.
And in some cases, like in schools where they stop testing people, it's on purpose to hide the ball. And I think it's just damaging to public trust yet again because we're not able to make really credible, draw really credible lines between 2020 and 2024 because people were acting so differently in 2020. And the laws were changed drastically in some cases to allow people to act differently. Your mileage may vary on whether that was correct to do or not. I think changing the rules in the middle of the game can be a real problem, again, for public trust.
Yeah.
Speaking of public trust, did you see that the Colorado Secretary of State accidentally released passwords for the whole voting system online?
Oh, that's not good.
No.
Wow.
She's the same Secretary of State who tried to get Trump off the ballot. Just
encouraging.
Yeah.
Mary Catherine, I think we need to move on to the next one.
Shall we pop rocks it?
Yeah, pop rocks. You know what? I'm sorry I didn't have my can of Coke.
I know,
to
right?
do
so
the
actually explode on camera.
Like Mikey from the Life cereal commercial.
This is going to be a little gross because I'm just putting it in my hand.
Because I guess that's how it works, right? You just...
Yeah, I mean, for sanitation, we would both have our own pop rocks, but this is fine. There's I have 4 children.
A chemical reaction that happens when you put it in your mouth, right? It's
Is it chemical or is it physical? Because I just thought it was kind of like, I don't know.
Well, I know nothing about science.
Okay.
So
fair enough. I'm going to look it up.
Okay. I'm going to say inform you. It's dark magic. Okay.
Okay.
Oh my!
Some more.
It's like crystals.
Yeah. Some more candy trivia. Producer Jennifer has informed us.
Oh yeah.
That Sweet Tarts just started putting those words on there, and you can make sentences out of them, like as if you had magnets on your fridge, except they wouldn't stick because that would be gross. Don't put them on your fridge. All right. Here I'm going to go with some pop rocks. Oh, they're fun.
Yeah, they are. They're magical, really. It's funny that was,
Okay. Pressurized carbon dioxide gas bubbles. Excuse that I have pop rocks in my mouth while I'm saying this.
That's interesting. Both. That's interesting that you're saying it, and that is carbon dioxide. Okay.
Carbon dioxide gas bubbles are embedded inside of the candy, creating a small popping reaction when it dissolves, according to Wikipedia.
There you go.
Now you know. And I really enjoy Pop Rocks, but I'm not going to do it anymore just because you guys are hearing weirdness on mic, and you're not going to like that.
Yeah, that was a weird experience. Although it wasn't, I get confused sometimes between the Pop Rocks and what's the really hot ones called? Hot Rocks? Hot tamales? Or there's something else that's just like that, and it's just really hot and
Red Hots?
Maybe Red Hots?
Oh,
is that what
Hots.
it is?
I haven't thought of Red Hots in years.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm thinking about. You got to be careful because they were very hot.
To me, those were a Valentine's Day candy.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember those?
Yes.
Red Hots. I'm going to look that up.
Thank you. Yes, they were like sort of a dark red, almost brownish heart-shaped candies. Is that right?
So mine weren't, I'm not thinking of heart-shaped ones. Mine were just like little, they almost look like Advil.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the same color as Advil. That's, okay, fine. All right. Anyway,
okay.
there we
Red
are.
Hots. There you go. Okay. I enjoyed that very much. I like Pop Rocks. I could eat a lot of
so
Pop Rocks.
it's been like this for you.
Well,
you started off on a bad note.
No, red vines. Yeah. But all these candies are pretty much in my wheelhouse for sour.
Okay, good.
And the other candy that I like is it's like very two ends of the spectrum. I like sour candy.
Yeah.
And I like really old lady chocolate, like York peppermint patties and Mounds, the things that everyone else
Old lady
rejects.
chocolate. I thought you meant like Fanny Farmer.
No.
Isn't it Fanny Farmer? You
like,
get the box.
Just like the adult chocolate, right? That your kid is like, who wants this?
I'll tell you what. I'll take a chance, assuming my mother-in-law is not listening to this. One of the things she puts in her stocking for Christmas used to be a 4-pack of Fanny Farmer chocolates. They're always very interesting.
I don't think I even know what Fanny Farmer is.
My goodness, Mary Catherine, Fanny Farmer. You can get a 4-pack.
What was the thing he didn't know what it was? Oh,
okay,
Fun Dip. You didn't know what Fun Dip was.
I only opened one side, and it was just eating the stick.
You were just gonna have the stick.
I didn't understand. I thought these were 2 pieces, like one for you, one for me. And
right.
now I get it. I'm glad we don't have, by the way, the pixie sticks, because that would have done me over.
Ooh,
That is the worst. The other thing is, I asked Kate about this, and she has no memory of it, which is, I remember long sticks, tubes of wax, and you broke them, and inside
yeah.
was a liquid.
Liquid,
Oh, thank you, Mary Katharine.
That's in the candy cigarette era.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there.
Yes,
yeah.
yes,
And
Jennifer,
then you
you're
chew
nodding
the
too.
wax
Good.
with the weird liquid.
Yeah. If you want to
sort
do
of
that.
make a subpar chewing gum. First, I was going to make a real quick point about Kamala's closing argument. Again,
Oh, right.
she could definitely win this race. I'm not discounting that at all.
No.
But the closing argument, they're telling us is an undecided voter play, and I just don't think it is. I think it's a base play.
Yeah.
This thing where you drive up fear about him, I think appeals to people who are already scared of him.
Yeah.
It appeals, actually, there are empirical studies about this done by left-leaning Democrat groups, including her own PAC, which is not allowed to coordinate with her. So they're doing their own thing. She's doing a different thing.
That's right.
But her own PAC suggests that this kind of alarmist messaging about Trump is not the thing that reaches undecided voters. In fact, a positive economic message is what reaches them. And furthermore, testing of these messages shows that the most educated people are moved by this message, and working class and middle class people are not.
Yeah.
This is not the thing they're listening to. The Vox article on this also, I think, sort of gives away something interesting. There's a paragraph where they say it might be a problem because Trump-curious voters went through his first term and did not see or experience the repression that many on the left told them they would see and experience. I'm like, that does seem like a big deal.
Yeah.
That maybe you would look at it and go, well, that didn't turn out so bad last time.
Yeah.
So I'm skeptical that this is a great idea.
It's also, it's the boy who cried wolf problem, too, because they keep on saying this thing, and they've been saying it about a lot of Republican candidates. So if it's the first time they have ever said, Trump is Hitler or whoever the candidate is, then, that would raise, I think, a lot more eyebrows. But the fact
I just think bringing the word Hitler into it is just not helpful. Like a lot of people just tune you out.
It cheapens.
Speaking of, to be fair to everyone, things you could be worried about during a future Trump presidency, this is not the Bill Clinton thing, which we are going to play. Howard Lutnick, who is co-chair of the Trump-Vance transition team, said in a Wednesday interview that former presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is backing former President Trump, is seeking federal data on vaccines to prove them unsafe and get some of them off the market. Okay, so that's going to be a hot sound clip, right? That's going to be a hot issue.
Are we talking about the COVID vax, or are we talking about vaccines in general?
When you're talking about RFK, you're
MMR,
talking about way beyond that.
Yeah.
Right?
Great.
That is going to make some mom voters, dad voters, suburban educated voters go, whoa. What's he going to be in charge of? He also says he's not getting a job for HHS. Lutnick told CNN's Caitlin Collins, pushing back against the claim that Trump had promised Kennedy the job. He wants the data so he can say these things are unsafe. If you give me the data, all I want is the data, and I'll take on the data and show that it's not safe. Lutnick also suggested that he had been persuaded by RFK on the idea of increasing autism perhaps being linked to vaccines, which the study on that, by the way, that people throw around was faked. Yeah. That's been shown to be a fake. It's yet another nail in the coffin of public trust.
Yeah.
And so, I think there's reason to be concerned about what kind of power different folks would have in the Trump administration.
I'm just going to throw this in addition to that. When Mr. Lutnick was at Madison Square Garden, he gave a very kind of a stem-winder speech right before Elon Musk. And some of it's interesting because I know that he was a survivor of Cantor Fitzgerald, in 9/11. But he started talking about America's role in the world and how it was this great creditor nation, industrial powerhouse. And then World War II came along, and then it was like, we had to do all these things for these other nations. And I was bracing for, and that's why the Marshall Plan sucked. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going there. And just made me a little bit uneasy. And again, I'm like, gotta wind it, let's wrap it up.
I think that feeling of an uneasiness that happened several times during the Madison Square Garden argument, I think works better to push undecideds away from him than what Kamala Harris is doing.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah.
And I gotta be honest, I don't mind the rogues gallery situation we got going on here. I think Elon Musk...
Open mic at St. Elizabeth's.
No, not that part. I mean the affiliation of, say, Elon Musk with the idea of government efficiency.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. This ain't working the way that we want it to work, and he thinks in interesting ways, and I would like him to have some input. I'm not mad about that. Now, the RFK thing, I do think that he's pretty out there on some stuff and wrong on some stuff.
Yeah.
But once again, we run into the problem of Kamala's experts on whom she says she will rely having been really wrong and liars on a bunch of stuff, including closing schools for 18 months to 2 years, including giving the COVID vaccine in particular to young men, mandating it to play sports and the like, and it hurting some of them. These are real things, and that deficit of trust is where RFK comes right in there.
Right. And other advisors that Kamala Harris has, for example, on the climate, who, are very conflicted because she's trying to back off her no fracking or her fracking ban, as it were. And Camilla Thorndike, who also felt that, and she said in the past, anybody who works for fossil fuel industries, you're killing the planet. This is not reassuring for the for the rest of us.
All right, shall we try the?
I'm saving this because we're going to get to the nerd clusters in a second, because it's not in the category, interestingly enough, but it is the hottest candy that's out there. I'm going to open up this bag of nerds, which is way up there. It's the sugariest candy we have.
I love nerds. I'm learning so much.
Only because we don't have Runts, Jawbreakers, and the Pixie Sticks. Okay.
Pixie Sticks is just a
here you go, Mary Kath. I'm going to pour some in your hand.
All right.
How's that?
I love the sound of nerds.
Now, the thing about nerds is they were developed in the early 1980s, and they did a lot of tests regarding how they should be. I mean, they brought them to schools and see what kids thought about it, which was great. They did everything, including marketing the name. And they were down to 2.
Okay.
They were like, what do kids call each other in the 80s? And they ended up with nerds. The runner-up was dweebs.
Dweebs.
Yeah, which is a great thing.
They should make another candy that is dweebs. Actually, the gummy clusters should be dweebs.
It's still good. The nerds are good.
They're good. And I also love the sound in the box.
Yeah.
And also, do you remember the little box that has 2 different flavors? And you can open each side with the little tab?
It's
That's
so funny.
It's quality stuff.
It's
right
genius. There. And Mary Kaplan, there's a story about this. I read this in the Wall Street Journal. So it's not me. They're called dual chamber boxes. And what they discovered, the marketers, it used to be owned by a different company that was like part of Wonka. You remember Wonka was like a real thing. And then it got bought by, I guess, Nestle, and now it's Ferrara.
I guess it does have a lot of sugar in it.
It does. It's basically, we're just taking like sugar like from your dispenser and just eating it. What they discovered was the girls would take the nerds and they put them in their hands while the boys
they just
go like, right into the mouth.
I was always into
this is when girls and boys were boys. You see this? This is a funny thing, but that was the 80s.
You can't talk about those.
You can't talk about that anymore. Anyway, those are nerds.
By the way, I love what other podcast can go from an RFK public health discussion to eating the most processed foods you could possibly find.
I know. It's shameful, really.
RFK would tell us that these are not good for us. No. By the way, I will say the other part of the RFK pitch, again, evaluating these sort of the suburban mom voter area who have gotten a little wary of public health. So again, there's a vacuum for his message.
Yeah.
The one that I think he's less wrong about is nutrition and food, right? And so he said the other day on Fox and Friends or something, he's like, I want to remove processed foods from school lunches. And look, I'm going to tell you that the red-pilled hippie health moms who are part of Make America Healthy Again, that is an appealing idea to them.
Yeah.
That one does not sound out there to them at all. And to a lot of people, it doesn't.
By the way,
here's an old profile picture of me on my birthday.
Oh.
With a giant box of nerds that's the size.
I hope you post
3 times the size of my head. We'll put that on the
What was that taken, last year?
Please. I was like 10 years ago.
Okay. I'm going to jump, since we're on nerds, because I have something else extra after this. We're going to do nerd clusters. Okay. Now, nerd clusters are the biggest candy now. It's the hottest sensation in the country. Jennifer, you laugh. I know it's not. I don't know what Jennifer has. She has kava. That's what she has.
It's interesting to me. How do you break through with a new candy? Right?
Yes. Well, they've been struggling to say, because nerd sales were flagging. They're trying to figure out what to do. And then, they came up with this idea of why don't we combine it with the gummies? And they test marketed by asking people what they thought. And it didn't get great responses. And then they put it together, and people were still kind of not sure what it wanted to be. And yet they wanted to plow through anyway and say, you know what? Let's just get it out there and see what happens. And they went to started selling it.
Much like this election, yeah.
Yeah, no, and much
and plow through and get her done
in a few in a few stores, and they sold really quickly. Now the key to it was, it's not just taking like a gummy bear. First of all, it's not gummy bears. It's just a gummy and rolling it in nerds. It was much more a complicated scientific process.
What carcinogen are they adhered with? Is the
So
question.
yes, the carcinogen. Yes,
I'm going full RFK Jr.
I know. So they had to make the nerds smaller, and the problem with the gummies were it was transferring water from the gummy. It was you just tear
I was
it open.
momentarily unable to open this
you could use your
nerd
teeth.
bag.
You can use your teeth. And what happened was the gummies were getting the nerds like soggy. So they discovered that the secret ingredient was Arabic gum. And once you put that in there, it preserves things the way they are. And Mary Katharine, nerd sales went from 50 million 6 years ago to 500 million now.
Shut your mouth, really?
Yes. Here we go.
Okay, can I tell you that when you pitch this idea to me, I'm going to say, no, that sounds terrible.
Okay.
I don't want crunchy and chewy
Have you not
together.
had this before?
I think I've tried them once.
All right, here we go.
But I'm going to now remember
not
when
gonna
I think
believe
of
it.
them. No, I'm a no. Nope.
What?
Mm-mm. Nope.
You know what?
Nope.
This podcast is over. Yes, thank you. It's over. It's done.
Sour kitty litter on my
I,
gel.
well, you know what? Maybe if I took a gummy and rolled it in grape nuts, maybe you'd love that.
I probably would.
Okay. We're running out of time, but do you want to do the thing or no?
Oh, Bill Clinton.
Yeah, okay.
But I do want to say, this is like fine dining, right? Where you have the different textures together, and it's very hard to figure out how they work together and what's the best way.
Yeah,
By the
salty,
way,
savory.
Speaking of which, I told you I've been watching that Culinary Class Wars, which you should watch.
Yes.
You guys would
I'm
love
still
it.
watching The Bear, and I love it.
It's so pure. It's amazing. You'd love it. It'd give you a bunch of food ideas. And one of the contestants is a chef, Edward Lee, who has a restaurant here, Succotash.
Oh, in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good to know.
Now I'm into that. I gotta go try out some Edward Lee food. Anyway, he's a Korean American who went to Korea to participate in this show. So anyway,
it's very exciting.
Edward Lee. Now on to Bill Clinton, whose clip I'm going to pull up because he's the second angry old man.
They're bringing out all the hits. They're bringing out all the hits.
Tripping up Kamala. Let's see. So here's Bill Clinton in Michigan.
If you lived in one of those kibbutzim in Israel, right next to Gaza, where the people there were the most pro-friendship with Palestine, most pro-two-state solution of any of the Israeli communities, were the ones right next to Gaza. And Hamas butchered them. And so then the people who criticize it are essentially saying, yeah, but look how many people you've killed in retaliation. So how many is enough for you to kill to punish them for the terrible things they did? That all sounds nice until you realize, what would you do if it was your family and you hadn't done anything but support a homeland for the Palestinians, and one day they come for you and slaughter the people in your village? You would say, well, you will have to forgive me. I'm not keeping score that way. It isn't how many we've had to kill, because Hamas makes sure that they're shielded by civilians. They'll force you to kill civilians if you want to defend yourself.
He goes on to say that Hamas makes sure that they're shielded by civilians. They'll force you to kill civilians if you want to defend yourself. Now,
how did that go over?
Sounds pretty quiet in there. I gotta say, this is a perfectly reasonable discussion to have, and he's having it.
He's making sense.
He's having it in a reasonable Bill Clinton-esque way, but that's not your job right now. Your job
that is not the audience.
Your job is not to have an intellectual discussion about Israel-Palestine right now. And it's not going to play well, and it doesn't play well. And our friend, who I always reference, Tyler Austin Harper, who's the professor on Twitter who writes for The Atlantic, who I enjoy following, says sending the king of NAFTA to Rust Belt, Michigan to yell at Arabs a week before the election is truly some Veep level SHIT.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it if it was a part of the show where they let this guy out and then he totally sort of attempts to deep six the campaign.
I mean, he's just feeling his intellectual oats there, right? Like he just wants to chat this out.
He's a genuine policy wonk. I mean, he's also a horn dog, but he's also a policy wonk. And the thing about the Clintons is, as you know, a lot of terrible things about them, but they are old school Democrats. And as a result, they are and always will be pro-Zionist. And I mean that as a compliment. Students protest Hillary Clinton at Columbia, wanted to be charged with war crimes, for goodness sakes, when she's teaching there, lecturing there. And Bill Clinton, that's what he's genuinely thinking. He's not putting some spin. That's how he feels. It's like before he left office, what did he tell George W. Bush? He said, "Don't trust Arafat." So he's laying it out there. But as you mentioned, not at a time nor the place.
Well, on a campaign, much like with a roast comic, you want to send the right person to do the right job. And perhaps Bill Clinton wasn't the person to send into this room in Michigan at this time because he's going to have this discussion. Anyway, we're running.
We are running out.
But we're high on red vines.
And I got one last thing for you, which is, we were picking up chocolates and I gave it away. And and Jennifer was getting her stuff. I went to I go to a very obscure hardware store called Ayers. It's like going back in time. It's like getting in DeLorean. And I picked up 2 candy bars for you just because we haven't had any chocolate on there, which tells you that all the sugar's in the non-chocolate candies. But I picked up 2 bars that go back in time, and I'll let you choose, Mary Catherine.
Okay.
We have Zagnut.
Oh, wow.
And we have Fifth Avenue.
I think I'd like to try Fifth Avenue.
I'm sure you would. It looks like the better one.
Okay.
I wanted Clark Bar, but
Zagnut is sort of scary to me.
Yeah, Zagnut. When was the last time somebody, by the way, last time somebody had a Fifth Avenue on Fifth Avenue?
You know what I like? Is a score bar.
Oh, that's sophisticated 80s, if I'm not mistaken.
I like a toffee. I like a whatchamacallit. I don't even know what's in them, whatchamacallit, but that was my go-to in middle school.
You know what I like? I do. It's chocolatey and crisp rice.
The crisp rice. That's what it is. And in that one I like the crunchy.
Yeah,
with the soft, but not
you don't
in
like the nerd clusters. I cannot believe that. So,
all right, I'm gonna try a bite of this.
Lucky you.
Have I mentioned I'm on a low carb diet?
It's just a little bit. It's just a little bit. How is that?
Oh, I like Butterfinger.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this one has no chocolate in it. Turns out Zagnut. It must have been during the Depression.
Stuck him with the bad
one. It must have been Depression where they had you couldn't have the all those things. And it's a combination of peanut. It's a peanut candy coated in coconut.
Oh.
I'll tell you what it is, folks. If you can find it, it's like Butterfinger without the chocolate. It's a good one.
There's probably a good story about how Butterfinger totally boxed out Fifth Avenue because this is basically the same candy bar.
Okay.
But we'll investigate that for another episode of Getting Hammered.
I'm not kidding you. That Zagnut is good. That wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube, and you can follow me on Twitter at Victorina Mattis.
I'm at MK Hammer on Twitter, at MK Hammer Time on Instagram. You can follow the show at Getting Hammered Podcast on Instagram and YouTube, where you can see my long dangly skeleton earrings that I took off for audio quality. You are welcome. Thanks for getting hammered responsibly. I've had so much sugar, I feel a little drunk, just like on our alcohol episodes, which is appropriate this week. This has been a Nebulous Media Podcast.